boy, everybody knew what a downwinder was. We were the anti-nuclear capital of the world. I was an autistic kid. My father was a drafted United States Marine, an incredible man. I come from an incredible family. My uncle stood on Omaha Beach on D-Day. I grew up on a huge ranch out by the lake. He was a beautiful, incredible person. He was at Pendleton, combat ready, and they were human guinea pig. They were marched into the trenches in Nevada. They're called atomic veterans. He nearly died at the blast. Between 1951 and 1968, we had 300 open-air tests. Well, as different scientists started to write about this, Wallace Stegner was at the University of Utah at the time. I got to know him. Edward Abbey was hanging around there. I got to know him. I got to know all these environmentalists, and I was an environmentalist, and it was a passionate, intense subject matter there.
All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. They'll be calling you a radical. Plumgate, 311, whatever you want to call it. I call it Pacific genocide, whatever. It's fucking giant conspiratorial across all demographics. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. They'll be calling you a radical. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. Plumgate, 311, whatever you want to call it. I call it Pacific genocide, whatever. It's fucking giant conspiratorial across all demographics. They'll be calling you a radical. May God have mercy on all of your souls.
Nuclear power was evolving. We were promised, oh, this can't happen.
Well, Merry Christmas, everybody. We finally got snow across the beautiful mighty Wasatch, the warmest December in history. But the snow blew across the lake last night. Something else. I don't know anybody who lives in Utah, the great mighty Wasatch, but this time of year, when these storms blow across, and if you're in a position, you know, I live out by the lake, and I have incredible vistas where I live, and the storms usually move quite rapidly here. Dry snow, they blow across the mighty Wasatch, and then the skies break in the evening and the afternoon across the lake. You know, and we're talking the flyway, the birds, is they have to find a way to co-op everything, and then the sun comes out and the landscape beams on that way. I'm telling you, it is breathtaking. I've been a lot of places, do a lot of traveling. There's nothing like it. Winter sunsets when it snows on days like today will literally take your breath away. It's some of the most spectacular visuals ever, and then the spirit, that quiet, that beautiful blue, white, you know, that yellow sun. I live in the old farm, you know, 6th generation. So, and it's in ruins, like America. Sunsetting across America. You know, the contemporaries. You know, and I hope Jules has a backup plan today. I'm probably going to have to cut this a little short with my grandchildren. The Casumo Bay holiday that we've turned into. It's just a special time of year for everyone. You know, because family can get together and friends, and people are very happy on this day for the most part. But, of course, it's such an emotional time of year. There's a lot of desperation, a lot of sorrow out there, because it is. And, you know, it's more than just Christmas, per se. We live in North America. In North America, it really is the time of year. You know, and that's what it's meant to be. I think that we have to talk about emotion and the angle of the sun and that quiet time. You know, wintertime becomes that quiet time where you really, you know, you'll sip your coffee or whatever, and you really think. You know, I was a construction worker for so long, you know, so I'd just say, when the unions are so strong here and so powerful, and the craftsmen were the greatest in the world here then, not now. It's completely gutted, but I was an exterior plasterer, so by law, you know, there was no work that went on. You know, this is when I was a very young boy, 16, 17, 18. November 15, it was cut off. It was against the law to do exterior concrete work, whatever, and then March 15th through, you know, people just didn't do it. You drew your unemployment during the winter, and you rested. You rested your body, and you healed, and you thought. You listened to music, and you visited with friends and family. I mean, Christmas time here used to go on. It was such a spectacular holiday in Utah for so long. Before it was co-opted, it's still a spectacular time of year. But you would spend time with family. A lot of people would sit around, play bridge, play pinochle, with neighbors and friends and family. And these times went on for not a few hours or a day. They went on for weeks. That's the way it was this time of year. And it was a time to reflect. It was a time to rejuvenate as far as rest goes, your body, your mind. You can meditate, you can think, being around friends. And, yeah, we all drank too much back in those days, but it sure was fun. And you walk around outside, and people were outside then, and they felt it. They smelled it. They tasted it. And so we hear all the time when someone gets a tear in their eye or they get emotional, immediately just jump, it's signs of depression. Depression is a very real emotion for a very good reason. It's like anger. Anger is a very real emotion, and it's there. Your DNA and your evolution of who you are, those are very important emotions, and they belong there. There's a time to be depressed, absolutely. There's a time to be happy. There's a time to be angry. There's all those things. So we try to repress the emotion. Just because you get depressed, something's wrong with you? No, something's right with you. That means that your mind and your soul and your body still works, still functions. Depression, joy, happy, hate, anger, they're all very, very real human emotions that exist for a very, very good reason. It's important that people can become angry. That's where resolve comes from. It's important that people then their mind can understand that something's wrong, and the rest, so the mind can go to work. So what happens? We know factually that the mind, when it's well rested, will restructure when it's night. It will remap in that brain to take the proper path. But what happens? No, you get a little depressed, whatever, so they prescribe pills to you. It blocks the remapping of the brain. It makes the body not ambitious. You don't want to go for your walk in the morning. You don't want to do all that because the remapping is not working properly because it's been masked over with drugs, pills. Where are the drug dealers that drive up pharmacies? I've been a little sick. I hope it's not nothing. Doctor's going to check me again, maybe tomorrow. Draw some blood on me, whatever. But, I'm like the rest of you. Yeah, this AML leukemia in my body that beats us down and compromises everything. And, sweeter the uses of adversity, so I walk more than I've ever walked. I create more than I've ever created. I'm more intense than I've ever been intense. We call it product turn those cells back on. And I don't do it with drugs. I don't take any drugs. Even my doctors were so amazed as this path made the choice not to have the bone marrow transplant based on some very good reasons. A lot of prayer, a lot of meditation, a lot of my path, a lot of great advice by great people, doctors, nurses, other patients who had gone this path. One patient who had sent home to die, too sick for the bone marrow. He lived. So we live. There's so much talk Christmas time around the American community about born again. Born again. The evangelical movement, even the Mormon community. What? Because you say you're born again? You say you're Christ-like? You say you're living in? That makes it? No, that's exactly the opposite. That is bear false witness. No, it's about actions. I was not born again. Yeah, I guess I was by default. Not intentionally me seeking help. But cancer did that to me. I'm a very, very, very different person. My core being is still the same as far as the landscape and everything, but my path is very, very different. So I want people to really, on this day, in North America, winter's a very special time of year. It's beautiful. It's spectacular. Of course, we want to rate the landscape and alter. As they say, you're a little under the weather. Boy, does that have a whole new meaning these days. A little under the weather. We're all a whole bunch under the weather. So in the atmospheres, we commercialize and destroy the last bastion of humanity. The air that we breathe, the food that we eat. It's just like today, the interviews coming out today. What a publicity stunt. I threw up that video. NSA, CIA, and Sony go together like GMO'd peas and carrots. Oh boy, do they. It's amazing to me. Their old playbook, it's not working anymore because of the internet, because of podcasts just like this, UCYTV. So much good content out there. You could turn on UCYTV and just let it go and just play it in your house at a low level and whatever. That's what a lot of these neocons, 78-year-olds sit around and freaking watch Fox News 24/7. These racist animals who call themselves Christians. Remember, Hitler called himself a very strong Christian. What America is, Jesus-like, and this has nothing to do with the Son of God or not the Son of God. Let's talk about the philosophy, what we celebrate. It's like the manger scene. Really, does that really have anything to do with religion? No, that has to do with birth. That's the one thing, as people say, the separation of church and state. Yeah, absolutely. But a manger scene, to me, I find it not one iota offensive. And I find when it bleeds into church and state, which, I live in Utah, on Balco. It's offensive, it's wrong, and it's exactly what I'm talking about. But a nativity scene, I think they represent so much more to me than the birth of a religion. Or I think it's birth. The salt of the earth, the manger, the straw. That's what we all need to get back to. And it can be done. You can do it. It's like when I'm in California, whatever, I'll walk along the beaches in the morning because nobody's in bed. So even though there's 45 million people, there's nobody around. It's amazing the salt of the earth thesis will not be accepted by but such tiny, tiny, tiny few. It's just so much of the art, of the philosophy, of the fight, the tiny, tiny, tiny few. It's so amazing to me. Oh, you're depressed. Here, let me describe it. Oh, you got a tear in your voice cracks. I want some people to understand this, and I hope there's some people listening today. When I was in Livermore last Thanksgiving, this woman shows up. Don't know her. She says, Kevin, I want to talk to you. Okay. I'm a lecturer professor at the University of San Francisco. So I make my students watch your videos. She says, oh, do you get it? And she says, right on Mark Twain Boulevard, University of San Francisco. Oh, boy, do you get it? The lacking in literature is simple. Co-opt, lies, Malcolm Gladwell, Papa. If that's literature, I'm an astronaut. Great literature has incredible intimacy. Now, do I use YouTube as a literature platform? Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Amazing. This is a book. And, I've always just said in literature, great literature professors, and I was raised by the greatest of the greatest. I was raised by the greatest writers ever. Fawn McKay Brody, Bernard DeVoto, they're my town. I knew Fawn personally. Wow. These people from the trenches in World War I, Silent Night. Yeah, he's from my town. When I did that video at that building with the windows flashing, that's right where he lived. Right there, across the street where those shoes are right there. Oh, yeah. You have to be incredibly intimate in a real way in order to literature to move culture. Harriet Beecher Stowe. Even radical literature at an intimate level. Ayn Rand. You don't think she changed the world? For the worst. Absolutely. Literature can do that for good and bad. But it has to be intimate. It has to be from the soul. It has to take chance. It has to... I says, you're the first person that said that to me, and that's exactly what I've been up to my whole life. I do understand that. Fukushima, I could sit back and write, and I can write, by the way. I mean, the one thing with my whole academia career, is very broad, as far as my education goes. The one thing where I was no A student, which I never wanted to be an A student. We know the most successful people are 2.7, and when I taught, I was one of these pass-fail guys. The one thing that we do understand, my highest marks always were writing. But I knew I could have wrote a lot of books on Fukushima right now, probably made a lot of money. I'm sure I could have. Way too acute a situation to write any book. Much too acute to write a book. So, this beautiful, incredible new genre, YouTube. Wow. It is so far. And people use it for a radio show. It's not a radio show. You know, what we're doing right here, that's a radio show, podcast. We're on the radio right now, which is an incredible genre. I've even tried to use my old TV, and I've tried to alter the sound to make it look kind of old through my YouTube site sometimes in an organic, artistic way. YouTube is a visual genre. Now, can literature be visual? People get confused about why can't it? Why can't it not? You know, it's the age of fission, these new times in this new place, and this incredible, powerful. You click on anywhere, it's amazing. It is an amazing genre. The letters, the phone calls, the people that I connect with, I'm all over every corner of the world instantaneously. I mean, it's powerful. That's what it's been. You know, it has to have a conscious soul to it. You know, that's what kind of Christmas was. Christmas here in Utah, it's like the Mormon thesis. Everybody wants to dive into the Mormon thesis here in Utah. I'm a historian. I mean, this guy came to me. I'll never forget it. I exposed Mormons. I'm like, dude, boy, did you come to the wrong place. I will eat your lunch up one side. I'm standing right at LeConte Stewart's front of his house in the snow. An incredible artist he was in Kaysville, Utah. At my grandchildren's home. I says, dude, I expose people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. What a fool. People are fools. This Utah, this movement, this California, this West, rooted in Mormonism, hardcore. But there's a much bigger thesis. It's the westward expansion. That's what this story is. The story of California, the story of Utah, the story of the West, I grew up in it. Romantic? It had every hardcore element. Why are the Europeans fascinated? Rightfully so. I lived it. I grew up on that ranch. I watched it. So much pain, like a really great romance has. The true word. The landscape. This story that I was able to live, and the people that raised me, and the incredible historical bloodlines and the family. I mean, they came out here for the romance, for the fight, for the struggle. That's what humanity is. But it became comfortable, and they just raped it down to the last landscape. And in the name of Christmas, in the name of Christ, wow. Evangelical churches with gates around them, private security. Jesus died so I could be rich. That is so offensive. I find it incredibly offensive. The Mormons do it too. I mean, they're the opposite of everything they're supposed to represent. Hairspray, neat, clean shaven, freaking wow. You know, the Mormons used to be famous for their long beards and whatever. Now they have a code that has to be clean shaven. I mean, there's nothing Christian about any of it. And the word, wow. The philosophy, the time, the play, usury, really? I thought he threw the money changers out of the temple. Was he born on December 25th? No, we know that. Born in early April. But that doesn't matter. The time and the place where they came across and stood, very important. Very amazing. And, you know, it's like we've incorporated in North America that Christmas is snow and winter and Santa Claus and, well, let's get real. It's summer in half of the world. Christmas really in North America became incorporated in such a romantic, beautiful, incredible way. You know, everybody watches the great movie, which is a masterpiece. It's everybody watches it 100 zillion times during Christmas for a very good reason. I mean, that movie has it all. It's spectacular. You know, it's about a moral conscience, what Christmas was in America. You know, that movie, you know, Scrooge, you know, Stewart is amazing. What happened? It was a time to reflect on our moral conscience and quiet, the snow, the landscape, such a solemn solitude. The solitude is incredible. It's quiet. You can hear, like out there where I live when it gets to days like this, you can hear voices from literally 6-7 miles away. They carry across the landscape. You know, and the ducks, you know, the incredible flocks of ducks, the big northern mallards, huge. This is the time of year they used to come. Not anymore. The great flyway has been drained and co-opted by people who claim they're Christ-like. People that show up to a building on a Sunday with pictures of blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesuses. These people have no moral conscience. Why, they're awake. But when they're asleep, oh yeah. So what do? They pop pills. So by all the pill epidemic, whether, you know, it was always alcohol, but that's a different animal. We had a major alcohol problem in this country for a long time. They've moved it to pills. Pills much more dangerous. Don't wake up in the morning. Beat your freaking body into a freaking submission what alcohol would do. That movie shows it so beautifully, you know, what we go through emotionally. That mind remaps. Hey, wait a minute, fool. You got caught up in this contemporary madness, this lie, this consumer bay, this military monster beast, this whole thing that is in the opposite. Stop. Grab a hold of yourself. We. Christmas really, I think, does put somewhat of the we still in. People love each other and they're friendly to each other on this holiday, which should be every day. It puts it into context that, hey, you know, this isn't I. John Steinbeck said it so beautifully. We simply went from the we to the I. Kevin Blanch, we simply went from the we to the I to the we back to the capital I. There's nothing I about humanity. There's nothing I about this round globe. It puts it in context at Christmas time how much we are tied together. And until people accept that, hunker down with a gun and some gold Mars, I mean, really, that's the opposite of anything strong. And so pop your pills and remap your brain so your brain can't freaking grab a hold. It's called your conscience. Your conscience rules your entire being. You don't even know it rules your entire being. It sucks up. Some people are stronger than others by definition. But it's there. Your actions are coming from your subconscious. You don't even know as they relay into your conscience. The past, your history, where does it come from? Historically, for many, many generations, absolutely. No doubt. So as I call it, the light. For the light is shining inside of me. You will never take that from me. It doesn't matter about money. I mean, Jesus was poor. You know, he helped the poor. You got to realize the sick. We had philosophies in this world for years, Dracula. You know, gather up the handicapped, the disabled, the poor, the distraught, the mentally ill, the people that society had pushed into the margins. Their health had pushed them into the margins. You know, gather them up, let's have a big party, and then set it on fire. That's what they did in those days. He was so radical, he's like, no, for you love them. And the Mormon community used to do a very good job. There was a lot of mentally ill people in Utah. For a very sad reason. Think about it. The Mormon missionaries go to this one's in Glasgow. That's a lot of came from there. Nottingham, England. Denmark. Plagues ravaged. People that were very distraught and very down and very hopeless. They told them the story of this Zion. The bottoms of ships, dying in the bottoms of ships. pushing handcarts across this plain the entire way. By the time they got here, if they weren't already dead, this hot, barren desert, this beautiful, incredible, hot desert, they'd made it bloom. Read their journals. Really? This is Zion? It was a hard, dirty one, but they banded together. The women would quilt together. The women would jar together. The women would race. It was the women. It was the women. And it was all communal, united order. They were pure communists. In the true word, not what you've hijacked it. By the way, Russia was never no communists. That was an American propaganda. Engel. He read a book on Marx. Engel wrote freaking that Communist Manifesto. Read it. No, they were a fascist state. They evolved into post-war, into the military complex. Everything went to military, nation building, flag waving, monument building. Oh, kind of like America now? The opposite of anything, Christ. And then the people that say, the evangelical on board again and go into this rant, and I mean, they're the killers. Thou shalt not kill. Love them, for they know not what they do. Yet they're the opposite. And then they'll say they're born again. Yeah, they're born again, all right, into devilness. The evangelicals and the preachers and the hanging the banners off the sides of their churches. I hung at one. And I got a lot of trouble for it. Me and some ex-feminine girls. I want to talk a little bit about this, the feminine movement. I was involved in one of the real original feminine. Had nothing to do with their nudity thing. They were the greatest activists. They're some of the greatest activists in human history. Oh, did they get it? Her and I hung right as the war broke out. Oh, the so-called evangelical preacher I was with my huge ladder, so they couldn't get him down. Right there on the landscape in Utah where everyone could see it. And we made this giant banner and hung it over there. They had a banner that says, "We support our troops and our president." Of course we support our troops, but we don't support, our president. Flag waving, nation building, bombing, killing our brothers and sisters in the Middle East, the birthplace, the Garden of Eden, where the Tigris meets the Euphrates, white phosphorus for time and all eternity. That's real Christ-like. Wow, the opposite. That's Satan himself. So we hung a banner and we made it. I made it, it wasn't, I didn't use tomato soup in those days, but I made it look like dripping blood. And I wrote, "Killers." And I hung it up there and they had a hell of a time getting it down. My class career, because that's what they are. Born again? No. Devil. Preaching from the pulpit. He passed the plate around and it ended all. I didn't have a penny to pay. So I got out a pen and a paper and I made up my own fucking sign. Said, "Thank you, Lord, I'm alive and doing fine." It's amazing. That song is spectacular in its lyrics, in the reality. So I tucked it up under my hat and I went in to ask him why. "He looks like a fine, understanding young man, you do. I think you'll do." So I took off my hat and said, "Imagine that. Me working for you." This facade. So put some hairspray, go on Fox News, put some makeup on, and to get this false bravado grin, Bill O'Reilly, really? He claims to be Irish Catholic? What an abomination to freaking anything real. It's disgusting. Everything's the opposite. I told this guy in New York, his hairspray radical, that I got, use the arm house, I want to take my snowball. But I said, how long does it really take you to get up in the morning and do that hair? What a joke you are. Big dude, too. Fuck you. I'm not afraid of him. Boy, I fear no evil. The prophet Jeremiah. Oh, yeah. I fear no evil. I don't. And that's what cancer does to you. Born again? Yeah. Oh, literally. Literally, because they wipe you down with the RCM squared. The type of cancer I had, it's a radical Hail Mary from hell. Boy, what a fight. What a battle. Literally born again. The purity? Oh, freaking. You're sitting on a line, you go through that whole death process, day in 24/7 for that long. That's why they didn't take me. I'm not pure enough. So many of my friends were. I watched them go to the next place. The angels, they watch out over me, the ones that passed in front of me. And I've learned. I take on issues, and, people can pull back on me all they want. I don't care. I don't contemporize anything. You watch any issue, I'm on the right side of these issues. I do not believe in violence under any circumstance. I do not believe in taking a life under any circumstances ever. That's hard to be. That's hard to do. That is not, and I'm not so much about Jesus, the Son of God. I don't know. I have no idea on any of this stuff as far as that goes. But I do believe in his philosophy, and I think so many good people in this country did. We still talk about NSA, CIA, all of that, but it still comes down to choices among men. Presidents of the United States, people in Congress, people in the Senate, judges. They still make their choices. Well, look at the choices they're all making. Look what we've evolved to in this country. We don't love our brothers and sisters. We don't love anyone. Self-indulged. Me, 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 me. Ayn Rand, me. Selfish, greedy, grotesque nation. Western Europe's even jumped on that bandwagon somewhat. We abuse slaves in China. We carpet bomb the Garden of Eden and kill Middle Easterners, innocent ones, for no reason, over and over to extract natural resources from their grounds. I find it so grotesquely offensive and evil. Well, I'm going to cut this off short today, and I hope that all of you have a really great Christmas, and, in North America, we got the snow. Go for a walk. I think it's so important this time of year to walk in the snow because it's so quiet. And you can pick these quiet times. I was in Williamsburg on Christmas, I think 2007 or so. The old part of Williamsburg before it blew up and become yuppified. With those girls in the candy store. They turned that old candy store into their apartment over there. Hey, can you run down to the store this morning? Yeah, Christmas morning, the store. Sure, I know where the ones. Walk about a mile, so quiet, nobody's on the street. This, what would be termed probably mentally ill woman across the street, yelling at me, screaming, hey, hey, and I look over, Merry Christmas. I'm like, Merry Christmas. She runs across, this is the greatest Christmas ever. She runs all the way across the street. There's nobody on the road. It's quiet. Hugs me. This is the greatest Christmas. And I said, why is the greatest Christmas ever? Look around. Can't you feel it? Can't you see it? Yeah. Off she went. 2 years later. Same dynamic, same place, same time. I was there every Christmas for a long time. Same thing. And there she is. Again, across the street. It's just me on the road. And then 2 other young men right over there. And she looked over at me. Hey, hey, you. This is the greatest Christmas ever. She comes over, hugs me. Yeah. Maybe we're all a little crazy, huh? Maybe we're all a little depressed. Maybe we're a little all too happy sometimes. Maybe our emotions are out of whack. Well, maybe that's a reflection of our time that we live in. Maybe that's what we're supposed to be. I mean, the human emotion and the human mind, to map this mess out, of course it's going to have incredible anger. If you're not angry, you're not alive. If you're not angry right now, but angry can be a beautiful emotion. Angry does not have to be tied with violence. Where does the world go tie angry and violence together? They don't belong together. Angry is a real human emotion that you need. Just like love, just like hate, just like joy. They're all human emotions. So the pills have ruined us. The alcohol, but people could grab a hold of themselves, come back and made it right. Like that beautiful movie. Our towns or anything. Sure. What's good and bad? I'm sure I had no idea that this self-righteous, freaking radical Third Reich freaking Christian thesis that you're some kind of righteous, you self-righteous bastards, or you are bearing false witness on this hallowed time of year, that you do it every day, all day. You can't be born against it, and I'm not going to sit around and say I'm some born again about it, because I'm not. I'm talking a whole different thing. But the landscape, the birds, the animals, the people, they're all my brothers and sisters. Every last single one of them. All of them. Love your enemies? Oh, I have a hard time doing that. You know, because I have real emotions, and I tap into my real emotions. You know, I remember my one daughter, genius mind. My ex-wife says, back when they were everybody on Ritalin and all this. I'm thinking, are you kidding? This child's emotional and beautiful and has an incredible mind. Let it nurture, let it grow. Do not challenge it. Do not alter it with drugs. Take a pill and answer. You won't answer. Disturbing, disgusting. It alters the mapping of the brain. Like so many of the great artists. Charlie Russell, the Western artist out here, used to say it beautifully. But look, I get well rested, and the mind can remap and whatever, and I get up and I do my great work in the mornings when I'm well rested. My mind's exhausted by noon, then I'll go drink my whiskey or do my whatever bar, and then I'm, home in bed. A lot of the Europeans do that, whatever, because the mind has had time to refresh and remap. Greatest work comes in the mornings. You go for a walk, it's like California. It's so great to be a morning person because nobody's a morning person. So you can really tap in and soak up and feel that incredible landscape in the early mornings. Because they're too busy on the freeway going to work. If they are up, if not, they're passed out laying in their bed. You can walk on the beach, you can walk the landscape right down the center of roads for 45 minutes because there's nobody there. And then you can get there. You'll see the sandpipers still dancing on the beach then because they've learned it's the only time they can come. The sea turtles are gone because Fifi and Fufu, the dog walkers in the night, go up there and just freaking put them under so much stress they die. Same with the sea lion pups. Point Reyes out there, we saw the podcast and the baby said, they're not going to let you walk no dogs along out there, rightfully so. I am a big believer that dog leash in California should be banned completely up and down the entire coast, all of it. I think humans should be banned for the most part. You should be able to go for a walk with a loved one or by yourself, yeah. But not with Fifi and Fufu go down there by the dozen. I mean, the dog walkers make me disgusted because they can't have a personal interaction with another human being. They can't interact with strangers, so they create this false, just like what the pills do, these false relationships. These relationships with the dog. Animals have great relationships with each other. I grew up on a ranch. Seabiscuit, when he throws the dog in with the horse, is very real. It's an old trick that everybody knows around here, the old ranchers and the farmers in San Diego and Utah. But you create this false relationship with a pet. It doesn't work, and that's why you're miserable, and that's why the human body starts to look like shit. We're all under a lot of stress. This is a very stressful time in America, and it's hard. Economically, socially, it's a tough time, and I understand. But don't give up on yourself because you have depression or you have these mixed emotions. That's healthy. That's not bad. And you will overcome. It's important to go for a walk. It's the vitamin D, the sun. The same thing that gives you cancer for 93 minutes can save you. Boy, what a fine line we walk. Under the weather I am. Literally, we all are, but I'll cut it off today. I hope Jules has a backup plan for you guys. Merry Christmas. I'll go spend it with my grandchildren. By the way, my two little grandsons are turned out to be such incredible young men, little boys, little children. They were born days after 9/11, a week apart. Both named after me. I used to tell them all the time, let's play two when my daughters were pregnant. He sent two to replace Kev, and I almost went that year. Oh boy, did I almost go. I had a premonition, but, our lives are tests. I think so. Our path, our journey. There's a lot of beautiful things to tap into all over this land. North America's spectacular, beautiful. It's a beautiful place. Yeah, they've ruined it. Freaking co-opted to their usury economy. 26 beds for every homeless person in America. Go over to New York City, see the high-rise is just empty. The growth economy. Edward Abbey, right here where I'm at. Right here where I'm at. I think believe his last wife who I knew. Right here where I'm at. Right here in Kaysville, Utah. Growth for the sake of growth is the ideology of cancer cells. Oh boy, did he get it. Merry Christmas. Let's stay in this fight in a real way. Take your facade off. Mess up your hair. Go for a walk and start to get in touch with your self, your conscience. That's what this time of year. This time of year is a time to reflect and build your conscience. They used to call it your constitution, the old timers. Get real. Get real. You all know right from wrong. Start living it. Stay tuned.
pertinent facts outline the dangers which are started to justify. Given the value, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Given the value, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is that great danger that in the moment of need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion.
This is Ozzy Skateboard, and you're listening to UCY.tv.
For more news, visit pigmindnews.com.
If you've got health care already, then you can keep your plan if you are satisfied with it.
If you like the plan you have, you can keep it.
I intend to keep this promise. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan.
If you like your plan and your doctor, you can keep them.
You'll be able to keep your health care plan. If you like your plan, you keep your plan. If you like your doctor, you like your plan, you can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan.
If you like your current insurance, you keep that insurance. Period. End of story.
If you've got health insurance, you can keep it. If you have insurance that you like, then you will be able to keep that insurance. If you like your health care plan, you keep your health care plan. Nobody's going to force you to leave your health care plan. If you like your health care plan, you will keep your plan.
If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan.
If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan.
No matter what you've heard, if you like your doctor or health care plan, you can keep it.
If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan. If you like your private health insurance plan, you can keep it.
If you like your private health insurance plan, you can keep your plan. Period.
Nothing in this plan will require you or your employer to change the coverage of the doctor you have.
If you are among the hundreds of millions of Americans who already have insurance, nothing in my plan will require you or your employer to change the coverage or the doctor you have.
If you want to keep the health insurance you got, you can keep it. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan.
If you like the insurance plan you have now, you can keep it.
If you like your plan, you can keep your plan. So if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. If you like your plan, keep your plan. If you like your current insurance, you will keep your current insurance. If you like your insurance plan, you will keep it.
If you're happy with what you got, nobody's changing it.
If you're one of the more than 250 million Americans who already have health insurance, you will keep your health insurance. If you have health insurance, the only thing that changes for you is you're more secure. If you already have health care, the only thing this bill does is make sure that it's even more secure. If you've got health insurance, you keep your own insurance. Today, I want to speak plainly, clearly, honestly. If you already have health care, you don't have to do anything.
And everyone who already has health insurance will keep the benefits and protections this law already has put into place. Period.
Period.
Period. End of story.
You have or had one of these plans before the Affordable Care Act came into law, and you really liked that plan. What we said was you could keep it if it hasn't changed since the law's passed.
The president apologizing for his repeated promise that everyone can keep their health care plans if they choose to under Obamacare. It's a rather stunning reversal because, as now everybody has heard him give assurance after assurance for years that if you like your plan, you're going to get to keep it. We, of course, know that to be false. The president spoke to Chuck Todd of MSNBC and responded to the anger that some Americans feel about that promise right now.
I regret very much that what we intended to do, which is to make sure that everybody is moving into better plans because they want them as opposed to because they're forced into it, that we weren't as clear as we needed to be in terms of the changes that were taking place. And I want to do everything we can to make sure that people are finding themselves in a good position, a better position than they were before this law happened. And I am sorry that they are finding themselves in this situation based on assurances they got from me. We've got to work hard to make sure that they know we hear them and that we're going to do everything we can to deal with folks who find themselves in a tough position as a consequence of this.
I mean, right now, everybody is properly focused on us not doing a good job on the rollout. And that's legitimate, and I get it. There have been times where I thought we were kind of, slapped around a little bit unjustly. This one's deserved, right? It's on us.
For more news, visit pigmindnews.com.
This is Ozzy Skateboard, and you're listening to UCY.tv.